Okay, guys, so welcome everyone. It's another fabulous webinar of the Weekly Fasting Group. Now, if you're not familiar with this group, Weekly Fasting Group is a big online community operating on WhatsApp. And the purpose of this group is to create or to cultivate the habit of fasting for 24 hours every week. There are people who do it for religious reasons, like spiritual reasons. There are people who do it for health reasons, just for the reasons to develop self-discipline. So everyone comes with their own motives. And actually, there is no other agenda to this group. So we have people coming from different like spiritual backgrounds, different dietary backgrounds, lifestyle backgrounds. And the idea here is just to create the atmosphere of tolerance, of learning, of open-mindedness, and just to learn and to unite all those people with the common denominator of this weekly fast. So that's basically the whole idea of this group. So, and of course, we have those webinars almost every week, almost every Friday. So if you're watching this video later on, and if those ideas appeal to you, then you will find my WhatsApp number. My name is Arik. I am the moderator of this group, and you're welcome to send me a WhatsApp message with your name, with your wish to join the group, and I will happily add you. And of course, everything is free, no charge. So yeah, and every week we invite interesting speakers in the fields of diet, spirituality, lifestyle, just to enlighten us what they have discovered during their journey of life. So today we have with us Tracy Hamilton. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. And Alba is going to host Tracy today. So Alba, over to you.
Thank you so much, Arik. Thank you, Tracy, for joining us. As I shared in the group, Tracy is a guide, a coach, a dear friend. She has many practices that have helped me find peace, greater self-love, and just be able to relax more, trust life more, surrender more. So that in turn equals freedom and joy for me. And so she is going to give us some information about her background, what she's passionate about, how she helps people. And later on, Arik and I will post ways that you can get in touch with Tracy. But first, the beautiful Tracy is going to lead us in a meditation. And tell us the name of the meditation again, Tracy, so it'll be on the recording. And so we just invite you all to open your hearts and minds to whatever is here for you today.
Beautiful. Thank you for the lovely welcome. It's great to be here with you all. This is a technique that we call the quiet space. And so what I invite you all to do is to just close your eyes. I don't recommend this if you're driving. So just close your eyes. First of all, I want you to connect in with what you're sitting on, or you maybe lay down on your bed. And just know that Earth has got you and that you are safe in this moment. And allow yourself to notice any surrounding sounds and allow them to be there. Then allow yourself to notice thoughts. Thoughts are like clouds in the sky. And I invite you to look off to the side of the thoughts, just like looking off to the side of the clouds, and noticing the quietness, just like noticing the blue sky. And each time a thought comes, look off to the side and just keep noticing the quietness. And as you notice the quietness, just like noticing the blue sky, know that this is the true essential nature of who you are, is this beautiful, expansive quietness. And sometimes that gets disrupted by thoughts, feelings, or sensations in the body. Ultimately, you are the quietness. So just allow whatever is there in this moment to be there. And I'm just going to hold space as you just keep noticing that quietness and just witnessing everything start to relax. Beautiful. And when you're ready, just open your eyes. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Tracy. That was wonderful, as
You're
always. I should spend more time imagining I'm the blue sky. That would be
Yeah.
great.
It's great to practice daily.
Yeah, yeah.
Noticing, taking pauses in your day and noticing that beautiful, quiet expansiveness.
Yeah. Well, why don't you begin by telling the group about your journey and where it's brought you so far and what you're doing, what you're up to.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you. Well, I'm from a small town in the UK called Hereford, and I have been here the whole of my life, apart from when I went to New Zealand, and I'll explain that as I go. And I grew up pretty shy and quite introverted and always really sensitive. I could sense things around, and I would often speak to my relatives that had passed. And my parents' way of responding to that was, well, they're dead. But to me, they weren't dead. To me, they felt real and alive, and I'd have conversations with them. So anyway, over the years, as I grew up, I started to squish that side of myself down. And, as we do, we go to school and we get in the education system. And I didn't do too well at school. And in fact, it's quite funny because my teachers used to say to me, Tracy, get your head out of the clouds. And now I do teach people how to get their head out of the clouds. So it's really quite funny. So anyway, I grew up really shy and sensitive. And like I say, I found school very challenging. I found the education system, I didn't learn that way. I used to feel super pressurized in school. And one of my biggest fears was public speaking. And that all started when I was in school, and we used to be asked to go and stand up in front of the class and read. And I don't know about you, but reading in front of the class, I used to be like, oh no, I used to sit there praying, please don't pick me, please don't pick me, please don't pick me. And I was always the one that was picked to read. And my teacher used to say to me, I want to help you. And I was like, oh God, I didn't feel like I was being helped at all. So anyway, but interestingly enough, that really played out to play a big role in my life as I grew up. And the reason that I used to feel so fearful of reading was because I struggled to read words. And if I got stuck on a word, I couldn't go beyond the word. My mind would keep taking me back to the word that I didn't understand. And rather than asking for help with what the word meant, I would be fumbling and fuffing around inside of me, feeling all really, really, really scared. So anyway, that was part of my school. And I came out of school with no qualifications, none, didn't pass any exams, or had extremely low grades. And then it was like, what am I going to do now? So I went and trialed a few things. I was a nanny for a while. And then one day I was walking through town with my mom, and we saw an advert for hairdressing. So my mom said, I think you'd be really good at that. So off I go, and I end up going to college and I study hairdressing. And at 21, I opened my first salon. And I discovered I was really creative. And I loved working with my clients and doing, cutting hair, coloring hair, being super creative. That was my thing. And then I was 21, and then I had my first baby when I was 28, Mia. And then I had my second baby when I was 30, Matt. And then I gave up that salon because it was 30 miles away from home. So it was just a little bit too far to travel. So I decided to quit, and I'd be a stay-at-home mum for a while. Then I discovered I was pregnant with baby number 3. And my son was only 8 weeks old at the time. And my husband did not want any more children. And so he encouraged me to make a decision on terminating the baby. So ultimately, that was my decision, but I did go ahead and I terminated baby number 3. And little did I know that that was going to take me on a downward spiral into so much shame and guilt. And I really felt like a murderer. And even though I didn't, I felt like I had no choice at the time. Obviously, I did have a choice, but it didn't feel like I had a choice. Well, then I watched how that became a destructive pathway for me. And that trauma racked through my body for 15 years. I really, really felt, like I say, so much shame that I was buried inside the shame. Even though I took that pain and I ended up opening a second salon and had that salon for 9 years. And then my husband and I got divorced, and I found myself a solo mom bringing up 2 children. And I decided that I wanted to give my children the best life I could possibly give them. And so I decided to emigrate to New Zealand. So I emigrated to New Zealand, and whilst in New Zealand, I discovered all of my childhood trauma, all of the trauma from my termination and where I was hiding inside of myself, all came to the surface. And then life, in its magical, mysterious ways, first of all, sent me a psychologist. So I started to chat to this psychologist, who started to help me to break down stories and start looking at the way I was thinking about myself and about life. And then after a couple of months of meeting, his name was Jeff, I was doing a talk in a seminar, and I got asked to stand up in front of the crowd and share. So I did. And I met another guy called Roger, who invited me to meet a guy called Tom. And I met Tom, and I stood up in front of Tom and did a speech. And he said to me, how would you like to do that speech, but without all of that nervous energy running through your body? And I was like, really? How do you know I'm nervous? Right? And so anyway, he invited me to go to where he was staying, and he showed me how to go in and feel everything. Every sensation that my body was experiencing, he taught me how to safely go into my body and to release all of that stress and tension out of my body. And as I did, that gave me access to that deeper trauma of terminating the baby. And so I needed to come to a space of forgiveness. And that's exactly what I did, was go into that space of true forgiveness and learn to love myself again. Because I don't know about you, but it's easy to love other people, but not necessarily ourselves. So anyway, along the way, I really got to practice what he taught me. And the deeper I went, the more it unraveled. It unraveled childhood things. It unraveled the school things. It unraveled all of this stuff. But I was able to go each time and feel everything. Then also, whilst I met Tom, I also he showed me human design. And at first, human design looked very odd and strange. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's like, I can't get my head around this. It's a combination of astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, chakra systems, quantum physics. It was like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to understand this? But then what I really learned about human design is there are some basic foundations. And when you just use the basic foundations, that is enough. Not unless you are like me and you want to go deeper over a period of time, you can go deeper. So let's take a look at human design. Human design is based off your date of birth, your time of birth, and the city of birth. And then it gives you your blueprint. It shows you, I always look at it this way and I go, okay, human design is my vehicle, okay, just like a car. So just like a car, and it gives you the way of how to work with your car and to give your car what it needs. Because I don't know about you, but we all have to maintain looking after our cars. So we're going to look after our bodies. And there are different energy types. And once I started to learn about my energy type, wow, things started to really change so much for me. So there are 4 energy types, but one of the energy types is split into 2, which makes 5 profiles. So there's a manifester. Now, our Alva here is a manifesting energy. And as a manifester, I always like to look at manifestors as the fire starters. They're the firecrackers. They're here to initiate things. They're here to get things started. And they work in bursts of energy. They don't work in consistent, sustainable energy over long periods of time. They're like firecrackers. They come in, whoosh, shake it up, and off they go. And as you well know, Alva, and the thing is, for manifestors, they need to learn to inform other people when it's going to impact them. When you're going to impact other people, you need to inform them. Now, manifestors don't necessarily like informing, because they think they have to tell other people what they're doing, and they don't necessarily like doing that. So you can imagine, as a manifestor child, you see the door wide open, you just decide you're going to go out through the door, you're going to go climb the tree, you don't inform anyone, and everybody's trying to find you. Where have you gone? And you're busy up the top of the tree. And then everyone's like, get down from there, what are you doing? But you just felt the initiation inside of you, and you just took action on that. So they're beautiful, and there's only 7% of the population that are manifestors. And also the only ones that are here to initiate and get things started and get things going. Well, how many of us are all trying to initiate our life to make it happen? Woo, I'm a manifesting generator. That's not my strategy. That's not my strategy. My strategy is to respond to someone like Alva, who started the fire, and go, wow, yeah, that feels correct for me. Alva, I'm going to put some energy into what you're doing, and I'm going to bring my energy. And as I bring my energy, then manifestation starts to happen. Energy comes to what I respond to, and it gives me that deep aha. And as it does, this energy just keeps coming. I'm a sacral being, and all of us manifesting generators and generators are sacral beings, and we will have oodles and oodles and oodles of energy towards what we love. Our energy runs out or burns down or dims down when we're doing what we don't love. So it's super important for us. And manifesting generators also are multitasking people. So when Alva asked me to come and do a talk, it was like, oh gosh, which part of me do you want me to talk about? Because I have so many different things that I do. Yay, which one, what part? Because I've got multi things that I do. And I used to be told as a child, you need to stick to something. And I'd go in for my experiments, and I'd go, I'm going to do ballet, because ballet was the thing that I'd go to. Lasted 5 minutes. Oh, Girl Guides, I'm going into Girl Guides. Go in there for so long, now I'm done. And that was how my life was unfolding. I trial and error, but that is who I'm designed to be. I'm designed to trial and error and see what works and what doesn't work. Yeah, because I was being conditioned to stick to something. What do you want to do? Who do you want to be? Oh my gosh, I don't know, have no idea. Because I'm an experimenter. And in the experimentation, I get to know what works and what does not work for me. And that's the beautiful thing about being multitasking. I'm always doing that. And there are 33% of us that are manifesting generators across the globe. Then we got generators. Generators move slower. They're very open, enveloping auras, and they all move much slower than manifesting generators. And they usually are more singular in what they focus on or what they respond to. But the same thing, they need to listen to their sacral energy and truly respond to what they love too. And then we have projectors. And then generators, there's 37% of the population are generators. Then we've got projectors. I love my projector friends. They're non-energy type beings. They don't have a sacral, but they are here and they're penetrative auras. So they come and penetrate us generators. Not so much you manifestors, because you manifestors are very selective with who comes into your auric field. And if you don't want them in your auric field, they know, because you have an energy that says keep out. Okay, so our projectors come in and they penetrate. They are here to be seen and recognized. And to become successful is for them to guide other people. So if you think, like we said about the fire starter being Alva, I'm there building the fire, stoking the fire. Well, I don't know about you, but a fire needs some guidance, because if you don't guide the fire, it goes all over the place and it can burn. Well, that's like us generative energies. We need the guidance of where we're going to put our energy. Okay, so there's 20% of the population that are projectors. And then we have our reflectors. Our reflectors are 1% of the population. These guys have got Teflon auras. They're really resistant, right? And they need to wait out a whole cycle of the moon before making a decision. And they are amazing, beautiful, gentle souls who are here to reflect back to us how well we're doing with our fire building. So they're beautiful, beautiful auras. I could talk a lot about human design. It is extremely in depth. Okay, but it's like, I just wanted to give you a brief overview and invite you to go investigate yourself, take a look at it yourself. It truly helped me to understand my design and know how this vehicle's here to operate. What about you, Alma?
Thank you for that, Tracy. Maybe we'll schedule a time where you can come back, and the whole session will just be on human design, and then one on gene.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, whatever. We've had a couple of repeat customers, if you will.
Yeah,
So
beautiful. I'd love to. And I'd love to go in depth. And after we decided what we were going to talk about, we were like, maybe we could have done one thing, because it needs to go deeper. But I invite you to take a look. Human design is a really good tool. Amazing, because it helped me to see my children. It helped me to see my children for who they are. It's helped me to see my granddaughter for who she is. It's helped me to see my mom. It's helped me to see who anybody is in my space. I get to see who they are, and I know how to adapt myself to a manifestor. I know how to adapt myself to generators, to projectors, to reflectors. They're super cool for you to do. And we have a PDF if anybody really wants to know about themselves. We do have a way that you can get access, and it would be like having a reading and someone taking you through your whole profile. So we do have that. We can talk about that later. Okay, and then I stumbled across, from learning about my human design, I then came across gene keys. And the gene keys came out of human design, and it is based on I Ching. And I love the way Richard Rudd has given us the tool, a book about consciousness. And it shows us the different varying states of consciousness. It shows us about our shadows. It shows us about the gifts, and it shows us about the siddhi, which is the higher frequency. So we're all frequency. We're all at different varying degrees of frequency. And I don't know about you, but we all get triggered. Life triggers us. Life triggers us to grow. And I learned to love my triggers, not be in fear of my triggers. And I created a beautiful acronym called Feel Everything and Rise in Love, so that you're not afraid of feeling your fears, your fear of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, which we all go through. So it's a great way of being able to see your shadows. And inside of this vehicle, like we said, like I said, this is your vehicle. Think of the gene keys as your roadmap to drive this car on. And it is your roadmap to your awakening process. And I love what Richard has done in breaking it down into sections. And it's called the activation sequence. And the first part of your activation is to activate your genius. So it's given you your core stability in you, who you are to be in this lifetime. And like I said to you about my human designer and the energy type, in my profile, I'm a 3/5. So what that means is I am here to experiment. I am here to go this way, that way, whichever way. Well, my friends have learned now that not to try containing me, and not to get upset if I've diverted off and gone off down on a bit of an adventure, because they know damn well when I come back, I'm going to bring a nugget of wisdom with me. And so it's like, I'm going to be that experimenter the whole of my life. And then the 5 in me, the subconscious part of myself, the 5 is someone who is here to bring up practical solutions. I go out and investigate, discover them, and bring you practical solutions to help you. And that's how I hold this vision inside of myself for helping you to be the best version of you. And how you feel about yourself is really important to me. So then from activating your genius is to open your heart to love. And then we go on the Venus sequence, and the Venus sequence is all about reopening your heart to love, because through life we get triggered, we have our emotional reactions, and we'll talk about them with Trinity coherence. We have our emotional reactions and we tend to shut down, we contract. We can contract down when we feel those reactive and those repressive natures, and they can feel painful. They feel painful in the body. And so therefore, then we hide. We hide inside of those pains, and those pains build up and build up and build up, and we know them as trauma. And so this is another way of you being able to activate you by knowing your shadows and not being afraid of your shadows, because every shadow contains a gift. They're like your angels in disguise. So you want people to come along and trigger you. You then are not afraid of your triggers, because you know that every trigger contains a gift when you pause long enough and to feel the gift. Okay. And then the next stage of that is called liberate your prosperity. Liberation of prosperity. Well, liberation of prosperity truly comes when we get to know our role within the whole, when in the community that we're part of, and we really know how we're here to use our energy and our time to really be supportive of communities. And so it's a great, wonderful pathway to go on. Well, thanks to going on the pathway, and thanks to Tom for showing me how to feel everything. That led me to my beautiful business partner, Tim. And I know Tim's coming to talk to you, and he's going to go more in depth into what we do. But I met Tim, and I got to know this beautiful soul who he and I then have spent the last 8 years holding space for one another, going to that quiet space together, going to feel every trigger and to feel where that is inside of our body. And we then created Trinity Coherence. So Trinity Coherence is based off of mental awareness, which we all know, which is stories, meanings, beliefs, identification, self-image, the way that we think, the way that we're looking at life, perceiving life. Then we have emotional awareness, and we come down into the body, and we come down deeper in, and we start looking at our reactiveness, our repressiveness. Well, we can all identify with emotion. Well, usually we get stuck in what we call the think feeling loop. And the think feeling loop is when I think this, I feel this, and when I feel this, I think this. And we get stuck there, looping around and around and around, trying to escape. You're trying to work out in your mind with your thoughts why you feel the way you do. And then your feelings then are triggering your thoughts. And then you go around spiraling around and keep going and going and going, until you actually spiral down into the sensation. So if you observe this in yourself, there is always a story. There is an emotion, but the emotion has a sensation to it. And this is what we look at in physical awareness. So we're looking at the sensations in your body. And we show you how to get out of thought through the emotional reaction and repression into the sensation, so that it releases out of the body. When you release that out of the body, you set yourself free. So this is your detox. You're detoxing, you're taking that out. And we look at them like emotional splinters. Through life, just like you run up to a tree and you hit the tree and you get a splinter. And then that splinter's there and you take it out. You think you've got it out. You think you've got the splinter out, but there's a bit left. Yet the skin grows over the top. You don't notice it until something in life comes along and goes and presses on that splinter. And then you're like, wah! And you react and you discover there's something in there and it hurts, but you can't see it. And you've forgotten that you hit the tree and you got a splinter in your hand. And so what we do is come along and we prise it open a little bit and we go in and we take out and extract out the splinter. That is like us in life when we have all of these emotional splinters, these experiences that we've had in life that have made us go, ooh, ouch, and then repress it down and stuff it down. So this is our way of we process and help people to resolve all of that inside of them. And so I also learned about my profile too is I'm an energy worker. So I'm here to release the energy in your body. I'm here to, my human design and my gene keys combined together show me that is my role here, to help you to release that. I am here to work in the emotional realm. I am here to really help you to navigate your emotions so that you no longer stay in suffering and become the victim, because we become the victim of our actual feelings, of those sensations, and then that's what causes us to suffer. And we discovered that along the way. And so now we spend our time ending suffering. And I love that. And I love that.
Just what the world needs.
Beautiful. So there's my snapshot overview of some of the tools. So I'd love to answer any questions, Alva.
Tell me, I personally feel like I know, or that I have an idea, but I would love it to hear it from you. Because we called your topic your golden pathway. And so I love that you shared human design as the vehicle. I can really relate to that, like my car, and the gene keys as the roadmap. And so would I be correct? I have two questions for you. Okay. One, tie this into what is our golden pathway. And two, so doing the Trinity coherence work, is that like, is that like the driver? And so instead of being a driver with, impaired vision, if you will, doing the Trinity coherence works allows me to have clear vision and enjoy the drive, enjoy yes. Just the path, the whole thing.
Absolutely. That's exactly what Trinity coherence is, to get you out of your head and to really feel deep into your body. Most of us are really scared to be in our body, don't like it, it's uncomfortable, we get overwhelmed, we get frustrated, we get all of these feelings in the body. So we want to stay up here and above the clouds because it's like, oh, woo, that's lovely. But ultimately we are the blue sky, but we forget the blue sky is in us. It's not just up there. We are ultimately the blue sky, but we have to access that by coming through all of the discomfort inside of us. And when we come to that, we recognize that we are the blue sky. I am love, I am joy, I am peace, rather than it be something out there. Is in here, is who we are. And so you're right, the golden pathway is your way to unlocking all that. Trinity coherence is your process of helping you to decondition yourself. When you really start to understand your design, you start to understand that this is an observer. When you use this as an observer, what's working, what's not working, what am I responding to? But response is in the body. It's not up here. When you feel it, you're responding. Your aha comes from inside of your body as generators, or and it actually comes out as tones. So if you watch a generator, you'll know when you're around a generator going and so you hear it as tones. But we've come away from that. We're not trusting our innate sacral responses because we go up here. And you know what? This is beautiful for asking questions, but there's no answer there. There is no answer in here. The answer is down here. But we have to come in and listen to our answer inside. We have to come to trust our instinct. We have to come down and trust the response inside of us and listen to what's going on in the body, not just what's in the mind. So you're right. Trinity coherence helps your mind to take a backseat. The body is actually the driver. The mind is the observer. But this wants to think that it's the driver.
Totally.
It's what's making life happen. It's what's doing what's going, when the world shows up and life shows up the way that I think it should, then I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna be joyful. I'm gonna, right? I'm gonna, when that comes, right? Yet when we realize that this needs to take a back seat and we need to start listening to the rest of us, right? We need to listen with the whole of our being, because we're only operating from up here. Think out the mouth, right? Not listening to, oh, is this correct? Not correct. Okay, so it's like we get our mind to take a back seat. It'll fight, and it's stubborn, and it wants to be in control, and it wants to be in charge, and it wants to be, and it wants this, and it wants that. But it's like, right, okay, mind, thank you for asking the question. Now I'm going to listen to my body for the answer.
That's so beautiful. That's so true. I totally feel that that's been my experience working with you. And I feel like that's where I'm living now. And so speak to, because that's not an overnight process. And
No.
I'm sure that it's the mind that says, I loved hearing you say that you and Tim worked on Trinity Coherence for 8 years. And I know you know a lot about both of your backgrounds, but I know that it was a long path to get here. And I don't want to say long, but it took some time. But sometimes it seems as though we're all looking for the magic bullet. I'm proud to say I'm no longer looking for the magic bullet. So the reason I'm asking this question is because I'd like for you to speak to that, because I hope one of the things that comes out of whoever listens to this recording is that we can make more peace with moment by moment progress, day by day, instead of this, yes, we do have quantum leap experiences. But I remember when we first started working together, I would have these beautiful moments of like peace and stuff on the call with you. And then sometimes when we would do that process, which we both now call feel everything and relax and rise in love, that when you added that relax, that was huge for me.
Yeah.
Added relax, because my shoulders used to be up here. I used to have so much stress in my upper back, and that has changed immensely. But I wanted you to talk about that, how you will have those moments where you have the peace, you experience the joy, the freedom, the forgiveness, or whatever it is that we're looking for. And then we go right back to the old way of being. So can you talk about how we navigate that so that it's not this thing, we don't go back into the shame, blame, guilt spiral, which you may remember when we first started, I was really kind of dragged.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been doing this 13 years now, and I still get triggered, there's a finite cabinet full of splinters in this body, so it's like, but the name of the game for me is relax. Like I said to you, relax. If there's anything that I've learned in my own experiences, relax. And if we truly relax in our thoughts, relax in our feelings, and relax in our body, we actually really get to enjoy the ride. But it does take time. There is no quick fix to waking up. There is no fast road. I tried to rush the process. Believe you me, I am a manifesting generator, and I'm going to try and find the quickest, shortest, fastest way to do anything. And I am going to skip bits along the way, and then I'm going to have to come back and eat a humble pie because I've gone, oh, we don't need that bit. And then we'll go out and we'll do this. And then you realize, actually, I can't skip that bit. I tried it, guys. I'm wearing the t-shirt, and I'm like saying, hey, no, we can't skip this bit. And the mind, it takes a while to get yourself beyond the thoughts and into the quietness. At first, I don't know about you, but it's like a really cloudy day. There's so many clouds. There's only a small fraction of blue sky. And it's like, gosh, my mind is always busy. But the key is not to try quieting your mind. Don't do that. Just notice the quietness. And then eventually you'll notice quietness more, and it expands more and more and more. And you notice that thoughts are occurring in the background of quietness rather than the thoughts being so prominent at the front. And then they do start to quieten down. Then you can start selecting them a bit more, become a bit more observant and going, yeah, that was useful. That's not so useful. Let it go. But it takes time and it takes practice, the same as coming down into the body. When we first start showing you, we teach you how to do it in the most safest way so that your brain feels safe. It's key. The brain will not let go if it doesn't feel safe. So that's what Tim and I pride ourselves on. It is that safe, sacred space that we hold for you to come in, and we help you navigate. So we're the navigators. We say, back off a bit, go a bit closer, back off a bit, go a bit closer, because your brain is learning to respond to that rather than react, because we're quick to react. We're oversensitized. It only takes someone to touch on a splinter and it's like, oh, you're off. Right. And then eventually you go deeper into splinters and you go, oh, hey, I can navigate through this. It's not so overwhelming. I know that there's a gift when I release this, rather than it's so painful, I don't even want to touch it. And, you know, the amount we've helped hundreds of people in the past 8 years, hundreds of people now, to really, really transform their pain into their passion and their purpose. And when you truly transform your pain, that you're no longer afraid of feeling the discomfort that life brings us. Growth happens through discomfort. And when we no longer fear the discomfort, we are truly setting ourselves free, and we become really self-empowered.
Beautifully said, Tracy. We'll talk about your community a little bit later. You said two things there that I'd like to tease out. One is about the gift, and two is what you just said. Growth happens through discomfort. As you say that, I think about the fact that it's about to be spring here in the United States next week, and I think about all of the little things that like peek up through the earth, right? Flowers and stuff like that. That had to feel tight, or even a bird being born, right? Like chipping its way out of the shell. And I don't want to speak for anyone on this call. I hope that they don't do this, but I know my past pattern, and sometimes when I go back to sleep, is to hide from discomfort, you know, or shy from discomfort, or live in my head about the discomfort that it's making something. But something you said is really changing that for me. On the other side of discomfort is a gift. And I've been looking at the discomfort as the wrapping on the gift, but I don't ever get the gift if I don't ever unwrap it and open it. And so that is really helpful. And so can you, why don't you share like something for you, like from your personal experience?
Sure. Okay, I give you a snapshot view of my life. Okay. And you know, I overcome trauma, number one. I also had spine, so I was totally ignoring my design at this point. I was not listening to my sacral. My sacral was telling me to quit. And, you know, being a solo mum, bringing up 2 kids on my own and no support, it was challenging. I realize now, I know that my design is what they call a tribal design. So I'm all about my tribe. I'm all about supporting one another. And so, of course, when all that support dissipated, my parents were always there, brilliant. I've got brilliant parents like that. Yeah, when my family tribe, you know, separated, oh wow, that was massively impactful inside of me. And so, you know, through that whole process, I got to see I have also my life work key. Let's talk about that as a way to to discuss the gift. My life work key is grace. I have key 22, and it's the key of grace. The gift is graciousness, and the shadow is dishonor. So life taught me about dishonor. And every time I dishonored the way that I felt, I was not being gracious. So what grace has really taught me in this lifetime, to be gracious, is to feel every discomfort, to feel everything so that it dissipates inside. And as it dissipates inside, then I became much more gracious. So the gift activated through going into all of the discomfort and no longer dishonoring my emotions and how I felt. Then the gift opened up more and more and more.
Cool. I just posted in the chat to see if anyone has any questions.
Beautiful.
Let's see if and maybe could you talk about, while we're waiting to see, I know you had problems with your back and that was really challenging.
That's where I was going to. No,
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. So also ignoring myself, and my body was saying, screaming. My body was screaming loud at me to stop, and I couldn't, because I was, like I said, being a solo mom and looking after the kids and keeping a roof over our head, food on the table, and running a business. I couldn't slow down. I found it really, really hard to slow down. And from not slowing down, my back started to play up really bad. And in the end, my disc popped, and I ended up, I couldn't sit, couldn't stand, couldn't walk or pee for weeks. Had to release myself with a flip blow. You know, that's the only way I could pee. And then I ended up having to have emergency spinal surgery. And from that spinal surgery, 16 weeks after that, I had a massive wound bleed and I had a snapped Achilles tendon. So life was determined to make me stop and pause. I also was homeless and had to rebuild my life again. I've been through loads and loads of different things. And you know what it really taught me was to slow down. Like you were saying, Alva, you know, there is no quick fix to anything. We have to slow down. And in slowing down, we get to hear. The silence is teaching us. The silence speaks. When we're no longer afraid of the void, you know, and we feel like there's a void in life, oh, nothing's happening. Everything is happening. Life does not stop. You know, when we slow down to listen, it's like slow down enough to smell the roses. Rather than be always aiming for a goal, it's like enjoy life as it's unfolding. If that's something that I truly learned in these last 13 years, and that time of when my spine, my disc popped in my back and I was laid up on my back, I witnessed so much frustration. But as I really released the frustration, that's where Rise and Shine birthed from. Rise and Shine, the community that we have birthed out of that being laid on my back and holding space. Tim held space for me a lot through that time. I was like you, my body was in so much pain, but I released so much pain through his support.
That's beautiful.
Feeling everything.
That's beautiful. There, I don't know who it is that said it, but I'm just remembering when you were talking about in the silence or the stillness, there's that saying that says, the silence speaks volumes.
Yeah.
You know, so while does anyone have a question? I don't want to keep asking. Arik has a question.
I wanted to ask, for example, if you get now a new client, this particular client has a really like serious mental condition, for example, Great Depression or eating disorder or whatever, like really, or serious problems in life in general. So they're pretty despaired. How would you go about working with this particular client? What would you start that with? For example, depressed person who has eating disorders, things like that.
Sure. So the first place we'd start is guiding them to the quiet space. We would literally start guiding them to the quiet space, because from the quiet space, we can then come down to the way that they're thinking. We can come down to the way that they're feeling. We come down to the sensations in the body. And as you start doing that, and you start to, because the brain just wants to feel safe, right? So the brain wants to feel safe. The brain and the mind will let go when you, or the brain will release when it feels safe. So the first place we start is the quietness. And in fact, the quietness can feel scary to a lot of people. So whichever way we go there and we just hold a gentle, quiet space for that, and we help them to feel safe. And once they feel safe, then we start breaking down all of the different things that are going on in their life. But we take them one step at a time. You can't rush the process. We can't just magically transform in that one session. So it is just about really being gentle and compassionate, listening, helping them listen to their body, helping them to drop out of thoughts and to listen to their body, and coming down and listening to those sensations. And when they do, the safer they feel. We never focus on what, as in like an eating disorder, we don't focus on the eating disorder. We focus on everything that's creating the eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like I worked, for example, with one guy who, when I met him, he was drowning himself in alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And his sister had contacted me because they didn't know how much longer he was going to be here, because he was suicidal and drinking a lot. So when I went and met him, he, number one, allowed me to take him to the quiet space. So we started from there. And what we discovered was that he'd lost his wife and his mum within 8 weeks of each other. And he was just severely traumatized by that. So gently, we just took one, what we call bugs, one splinter at a time with each one of them. And as we focused on taking each splinter out one at a time, he eventually quit drinking. No longer traumatized, no more full of grief, released all the grief out of his body. And then just one day at a time, him practicing and processing himself. Now he does it himself, totally knows how to do the process, doesn't need me anymore in that way. And so now he processes and debugs himself. It takes all those splinters out himself and no longer needs drink, and went from being a recluse inside of his house to now working in A&E and back out in the community.
Interesting. Tracy, and do you sometimes also recommend them to change something in their external environment, or all the work actually is the inner work?
Sometimes if it's physically not a safe environment, then clearly people need to be moved out of that. If it's not a physically safe, then it is advisable that they got taken out of that environment, because that environment will keep traumatizing. It will keep traumatizing and traumatizing and traumatizing. So not unless you've got two willing parties to work within themselves, so that physicality ends, you know, then there needs to be some form of separation, not permanently, but for, you know, separation whilst each one works within themselves. So yeah, definitely, if there's a physical issue, I would definitely move them out of that environment. Because the same thing, if they're in an unsafe environment, it just re-traumatizes all of the time.
Okay, so if I understand right, so you start working with the person, but then the aim is to teach them how to process themselves, so that they aren't dependent on you anymore. Right?
Totally. Our aim is self-empowerment. Totally self-empowered to do it yourself. So we train people rather than we coach people. We train them how to do it. You keep going through the process, and we have a very specific step-by-step guidance. So when they go through the process, they first of all learn, like I just showed you, how to go to the quietness. So that's the first step, knowing you're safe in this moment, and then walking your way through the process. Then we come back down the other way and we go through the process that way. Then we have different tools. So we teach some different techniques to go in. So you go in there, we have a technique where you go right deep into the sensation, then another one, which is an identification, you go away from the sensation. So we start navigating which way they need to go at first, until they start to know, hey, this feels like I'm going into this one. This one feels like I need to go in. They go in, they clear the energy that way. Or, I can sense I need to go out. And eventually they go, I don't need you anymore. So our ultimate goal is to make people self-empowered to know how to do this for themselves. But we also have that safe space for people to come and do this together, so that they're not alone as well. So sometimes you need someone to hold space for you, because it may be a very deep, painful experience that your brain won't quite let you go there on your own. So when you're with someone else holding space, you feel safer, and then you'll go there. So there are different situations. And I knew that for myself. That's why we created Rise and Shine as a safe space to come and process this, because there were some that I couldn't get access to. My brain just wouldn't let me go there. It was doing its job. That part of our brain is doing its job. It's on alert. Am I safe? And if it doesn't feel safe, it won't go there. So you do need someone to hold you step by step through that too.
Okay.
Beautiful questions, Arik. I would say that's actually been my experience when Tracy and I started working together last year. I was in a sciatic flare-up, and I couldn't walk, I couldn't lay, I couldn't sit, I couldn't whatever. And then I had fear going on top of that because I couldn't work. Eventually had to let go of the job. It's been a bumpy ride over the last year, but it's also been a beautiful ride. But pretty quickly, the processes that she worked with me have helped me, and I'm still applying them. And then, like she said, which we'll talk about, and Tim, I think, is our guest next week, her partner, they developed a community with all kinds of tools and resources and workshops and things like that. And we will provide that information to the group. But both of you said something. Did you have another question, Arik? I didn't
No, but maybe some other guys have any questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Just pop yourself off mute.
Yeah. Welcome to unmute yourself and ask. Otherwise, you have a great conversation, Alva. So it's really pleasure to listen to that.
There was something you were saying, Tracy, because I remember this. You would have us find the sensation in the body. I was thinking about this specifically, like if there's someone in the group that's dealing with like physical pain or maybe stress or anxiety from work. Obviously, you've showed us how to do the quiet space, but like, how do you do that, like in the moment? Like I had the luxury or fortune of being at home, obviously, when I was going through my stuff. But if you're in the office or you're with a family member and something else, as you said, has been trigger activated, would you share just a simple way that you navigate that when that happens for you?
Sure. Like I've been on a meeting before now, for example, and I've gone, oh, hey, triggered. I can feel my heart starting to race, my throat starting to tighten up, really getting uncomfortable. And so I, would just sit there, and I sometimes excuse myself and say, excuse me, I feel triggered right now. Especially if I was with people that I knew in my meeting, just say I'm a bit triggered by right now. I'm just going to sit and process that. With my family, I taught my kids how to do this. I taught my kids how to feel everything, so that, if any of us were reactive, I'd say, I'm just going to excuse myself out of the room. I feel triggered right now. I'm just going to go and process that, and I'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
And so they learned that they were my triggers, not theirs. It's not their fault that I'm triggered. I'm triggered because I'm feeling something that's uncomfortable inside of me. It is not their fault. And
That's
so
so
therefore, and being a solo mom, you can imagine there was a lot of heightened emotions because it was stressful. You know, I'm having to provide everything for them and go to work and come home and run a house. It was extremely stressful. Yet I still taught them how to process
that's beautiful. That's
and
beautiful.
really showed them through my own example to own my triggers, not blame my triggers on somebody else. And so my kids talk about this all the time to their friends. You know,
Yeah,
when
that's very powerful and very empowering to own our triggers. It may not feel good in the moment, I find, but that person then is a gift to me because they're showing me where something old, some old energy is hanging out and it's stopped operating and stuff.
yeah,
There was something that you were saying too. So I don't know like how many people are on the call that are familiar with human design and Gene Keys or that will watch this, but you said, of course, we could Google it ourselves. Will you provide us with too, like where I know there's a site they can go to where you can put in your stuff, and then if you guys want, you can reach out to Tracy and she'll go through your profile with you. I know that prior to Tracy, I have friends that practice human design, and like you, I was like, yeah, okay, that's yeah. It was just
yeah,
so
there's a lot
confusing to me.
of information, you know, but that's what I love about what Richard teaches. Richard teaches the art of contemplation. And you know, it's like when I say to people, you know, the book, I know someone asked about the book. I did
She
see
did, and I checked. She asked, yeah, if you'll show us the book, that would be great.
Okay, so this is the Gene Keys.
Hold it up. There we go. Yeah.
Okay, so
Richard Rudd.
Embracing Your Higher Purpose. This is my second book. I read the first one so much the pages fell out. Okay, there's this one, and it's like this big. Okay, but it's the 64 keys, and if you think about it, 64 keys, 64 strands of DNA. So each one represents a strand of DNA.
Wow.
So they're beautiful, you know. It's like when you sit there, but the thing is to bring the information in. There's some of the word I used to have to Google the words, because some of the words I was just like, wow, what does that word mean? You know, that's like way beyond what I can even comprehend what that word means. And so I could recognize the shadow frequencies far easier than I could the gift and the siddhi. The siddhi just felt like alien language to me in the beginning. So like I said, I used to Google words and find out what they meant. Yeah, when you contemplate the gift and keep contemplating the gift, you're activating it inside you. You are reminding yourselves, your strands and your DNA, that is you, not just the shadows. Okay, it's activating it in you. And then now when I look at the siddhis, I go, aha, I get more of a glimmer of what they are. And I've been sat contemplating the keys for the last 9 years, and I still learn something more and something more and something more. Every time I read them, something else activates in me, and I'm like going, oh wow, I get that now. But in the beginning, it was challenging.
Yeah.
It was challenging. It was quite confronting. You know, when you're facing your shadows, it is confronting. But like I said to you, every shadow contains a gift. So when you go to them and you're not afraid of them anymore, you go, oh, hey, there is a gift activated. There is gift activation going on.
Oh, I like that gift activation. I love that you offer us the opportunity to view this whole uncovering and discovery of our more authentic selves as a golden path, and that I don't want to speak for the group, but I'll just say oftentimes on the path, awakening and enlightenment seems like this static state. That's the way I've used to view the information, whereas now I'm seeing it as it's a moment by moment, interaction by interaction, you know, day by day, sometimes month by month, because sometimes I can stew in an old thing. So there's two things that you said there, and anybody please feel free to jump in. You use the word city, so if you'll give us I think it's SIDDHI, right? If you'll tell us what that is. And then two, actually I have three things for you, but just two questions. Tell us what city is. And then I really love that he talks about frequency, because as I've said many times, one of my favorite quotes by Tesla is, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And I've started thinking about that in terms of whatever I'm eating, whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm watching, whatever I'm listening to, what is the frequency behind this? What is the energy? Is it raising or lowering? Is it light? Is it dense? That type of thing. So if you could talk a little bit about city, a little bit about frequency, and then the third thing, I believe it's in his introduction in the Gene Keys. He says something so beautiful that maybe you might want to share with us or not. I'll look it up while you're talking, and then you let us know if that works, unless someone has a question.
Yeah, sure. Beautiful. So the city, so like I was saying to you about key 22, so the city is grace.
Okay.
Okay.
And are you saying city or CITY?
City. So SIDDHI.
Okay.
City.
Okay.
Okay. So the city would be grace, the gift is graciousness, and the shadow is dishonor.
So each key is 3 parts. Okay, perfect.
I tell you what I'll do. Would you like this? I will read you out of Rosie Arison is someone who has studied human design and Gene Keys too. And she took the 64 Gene Keys and she turned them into wisdom keepers. Right, which is the inner guidebook. And there is beautiful stories to them. To each key, she writes a beautiful story that helps you to really digest the information of the Gene Keys. And you were saying about the city. So graciousness, we'll read key 22 because we've been talking about that. Graciousness means that you act with grace and consideration in everything that you do. So the story of this wisdom keeper is, I was born into a well-respected family and cared a great deal about its reputation. But beneath the veneer, there was a terrible dysfunction. When my body began to change into a beautiful young woman's body, an admired family member abused me sexually. I felt afraid and ashamed to tell anyone what was happening. Instead, I tried desperately not to feel. Whenever a forbidden feeling arose in my heart, I'd throw myself on the floor and pray to God, and pray that God would make me good and pious. Because I showed such unusual religious favor for a young girl, I was sent to a secluded monastery to live in a modest life and study and prayer. Relieved to be in a safe space, I gladly renounced all material things, took a vow of celibacy, and dedicated my life to selflessness. To all that the monastery, I was a proper, calm, balanced woman and a keen listener. But on the inside, I often seethed with inappropriate feelings, and that I couldn't bear to accept, much less express. I distrusted my pain, rejected my beauty, and hated my needs, and judged my desires. I couldn't say no to requests for support, even when I was sick. I felt disgust at even the tiniest bit of passion, anger, or sexual feelings within me. One day during a prayer group, a sister bravely shared about an experience of having been raped as a child. In the midst of her sharing, my body was hit with a tidal wave of memories, humiliation, and shame. Instead of looking up to God and praying for the feelings to go away, I buried my head in my hands and I sobbed. For the first time in my life, I shared about what happened to me. I hid nothing from anyone, not even myself. As the pain, shame, and loneliness of my past erupted out of my throat, I felt a kind of light and love descend into my chest, one I'd never experienced in all of my days of prayer. And when I opened my eyes, I was met with such love, compassion, and respect that it felt like the entire cosmos was singing. Now I regarded myself as deeply as I regarded others. I no longer need to hide my beauty, dishonor my boundaries, or withhold my feelings to engage graciously with the world. So my gift to you. I have come to tell you that there is nothing in you that is unworthy of love or of reverence. The very things you think you should hide or get rid of are exactly what needs to be seen, felt, and expressed. Push nothing away. Transparency is the ultimate path towards grace. Be unwaveringly gracious towards every part of yourself, every feeling, every painful experience. By honoring all that is within you, you will experience the poetry and the music of even the most agonizing moments. You will naturally find yourself being gracious towards others, touching their emotions, hearts, and souls with the milk of human kindness, and they will bloom in your presence. At your core, you are graciously unique manifestation of grace. Honor your suffering, and you will discover your gift to the world.
Wow, man, I have chills. That's so beautiful. Now I understand, I better understand or understand how these 3 tools that I know you have many, but just specifically that you came to introduce us to today, for those who are unfamiliar, really open our path to love, open our path to ourselves. You couldn't have said it better than to share that. I'll copy the image of that book.
Yeah, I'll send you all the links.
Okay, perfect.
I'll send you all the links and then you can share them, or I can come in the group and share them. I'll share all the links that I have for you to go on and discover. You know, there's one thing about being a manifesting generator. I bump into things. I bumped into everything that's happened. If I try and initiate things to happen, oh Lordy, that is messy. Yet when things come to me like this and I just start to discover them for myself, and I don't bring you anything that I'm not using myself. You know, they have been amazing, amazing tools that have changed my life. And I feel so much gratitude in my heart for those gifts that came my way and for me to share them with you.
That's just wonderful. Just want to throw it out. We've got a couple more minutes to see if anyone had a question.
Hello.
Hi, darling.
Hello. I don't even know how to paraphrase my question. That, like, what I understand, that if you're being abused as a child, so, and it affects your life, then you could try to then you need, then resolving it, you find something, some gift or something.
Yeah.
Like, so actually it's a good thing to be abused. I mean, I don't know. And if you hadn't been abused, I mean, it's sort of something that it was like a coincidence, or it wasn't a coincidence, or
you get to, when you've resolved the pain, when you resolve the pain around anything that's happened in life, you get to meet a part of you, like, for example, resilience, courage, strength. Wow, what courage and strength that it would have taken to come through that experience.
So if she hadn't been abused, so she didn't have this opportunity to discover that. I mean, so it's a good thing that she was, you know, it's a philosophical issue, or she might have been suffered something else, like, or maybe
Exactly. It's not saying that abuse is a good thing. It's
No.
saying we all have different things that create scars and wounds and traumas. And then as we unpack them, there are gifts in there for us in the way that we then get to meet ourselves and operate, but definitely not the act as a gift. Just
Could you say that we attract certain things, and that certain things, like certain people, is it, I mean, like,
I think I might understand where you're going. I would say as an adult, I might attract certain things, but I don't think there's something that Tracy said earlier, and Tracy, I'll pivot to you. I don't think we attract everything. We have experiences. There, some of those that, you know, like for example, you get into an argument with your partner and something tells you to be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, or you say something unkind to your child, and there's a moment where something tells you don't say that, and you don't listen, and then an argument or hurt feelings ensue. That would be a moment of attraction. But a car accident, when you're just driving and someone runs into you, you didn't attract that. A child doesn't attract, I don't believe that they attract being molested, or someone attracts being beaten or whatever. Even the woman or the man that stays in a relationship too long that's physically abusive, right? However, anything, as Tracy said, with the processes that she's offering, and so many, right? There's 8 billion people, so there's probably 8 billion processes, if not more, for us to, you know, keep returning to our natural state. But everything can be used for good. If you think about in the United States, we have something called Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It happened because a mother lost her teen to drunk driving, and then she got with other mothers, and then legislation started and things like that. And so, Tracy, I'll pivot to you on how you want to speak to that.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I think there's just experiences in life, and I can't say that you attract that for any, you know, as a child. I don't have the actual answer for that. I think everybody, you learn something through your experience. I have worked with lots and lots of people who have been sexually abused as children. And once they've released everything, all of the pain around there, they can see that, like I said to you, they see this resilience inside of them. They see the courage inside of them. They see that they are still here, and they can see why, you know, why maybe they've attracted relationships that were abusive, because they didn't feel they were worthy of anything more than an abusive relationship. And once they've processed that, they now know that they're worthy of more than abusive relationships. So that's what I mean. There's a gift inside of it. They get to meet these parts of themselves that maybe they wouldn't have had access to if they hadn't been through the experience. Who really knows why we go through the experiences we go through?
Maybe these are extreme examples to be used. But I think as children, we're very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the tools. So even if a parent shouts at us, or I don't know, if the parents is unavailable, so it's still a trauma for us.
Yeah.
We don't need to go to such I'm trying to, yeah.
Yeah, it does now. Yeah, exactly. Our nervous system, you know, trauma, there are big T's and there's little T's.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, when we're in the womb, we're in 5-star womb service, right? All our needs are met. We don't have to do anything. We are just growing, right? Yet we are sensing how our mum's thinking. We are sensing how she's feeling. We are sensing how she's reacting to life. We are picking up that through our sensory system. When we come out into the world, we come out, and the first thing we do is wah. The wah is, where's the missing part of me? Because we've identified with our mom. We've identified with this. If we don't go straight back to that, okay, which is our safety, because that's what we've heard for 9 months or however long we were in the womb. And now we come out into the world, it's like, wow, where's the missing part of me? And then we've got a need that wants meeting. We're going to cry super loud until we get that need met. Super, super loud. And that is traumatized into our nervous system, right? As kids, we're growing up pre-verbal, can't express ourselves other than throw ourselves, have paddies and tantrums on the floor and have all of these emotional reactions. And so for example, there's this beautiful, nice wall up the back here. I'm a child. I just feel instinctively pick up this pen. And I go over there and I go draw a drawing. I don't think anything of it. I'm just purely, as a child, acting on instinct, because that's all we do. We're using our sensory system. For the first 7 years of our life, we're just using our sensory system. And a parent comes in and says, no, screams at you, naughty, bad girl, bad boy. Dude, I've just painted and decorated. That just cost me hundreds of pounds to have that done. Rah, rah, rah. And I have a parent that's super reactive. You now starting to not trust your instincts. You're now starting to go, oh, no is not a nice word. And yes is a nice word. So we go, yes, that's great. That's lovely. No, ooh. That's not so good. So we start hearing yes is a no, yes is a no, yes is a no, and yes is a no. Now we start being navigated by everybody who's around us. We start to not trust our instinct through those yeses and nos. And depending on the severity of those no's, whether they're a little t or a big T. I've met people who have been traumatized by their cat dying as much as someone has a child lost. They're grieving. No, the grief process is no different. We have different levels of trauma. We're all doing that. This is why I say by these triggers are just trauma responses. Trauma stress, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Trauma stress, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Start being aware of yourself. Am I reacting right now? Reaction is fight and flight. Am I repressing, which is freeze and fawn? And you start just becoming aware of how is your nervous system. And the more that you can go to your nervous system and feel every sensation, and your nervous system calms down, now you're in the rational part, you're out of the irrational part of the brain into the rational part of the brain. Now you make clearer decisions. We've all got trauma. That's why I love Gabor Mate and what he's doing out in the world, because he's raising awareness about trauma. We all are trauma. We have all got our traumas, just on different varying degrees, and they show up in our reactive and our repressiveness. And that's what the Gene Keys highlighted to me. And that's what Trinity Coherence does. It shows you the safe way to process, helps you to decondition all of those experiences in your life that have caused your nervous system to be oversensitized and be making emotional decisions. So why do we go through these experiences? Tracy had to go to quite an extreme to go homeless. Oh, let me experience homelessness, and it's like, I had no idea. Was I doing that consciously? No. But for some reason, this beautiful body needed to go on the experience to discover something. But you know what I discovered when I ended up with nothing left materialistically? Was how much my ego had identified with, I am something when I have money in my bank account. I am something when I have a car. I am something when I have a house. But the beautiful gift that experience gave me is that every time I go, I am worthy. I am love. I am valuable. Not what I have, but because I am here. And that was the greatest gift that came out of being homeless. Would I have ever got to that space without being homeless? I don't believe I would have. And I wouldn't have discovered human design, and I wouldn't have discovered Gene Keys, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't have been in that space. But it made me realize that how precious the breath of life is.
Appreciate. Be grateful. Yeah.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Yay. Yay. Thank you so
Fabulous,
much.
my darlings. Well, I'm going to have to love and leave you because I have a client that I'm just going to go and help release from some
Eric,
trauma.
you want to pop back on and close us out? Thank you again. We'll have Tracy come back another time and
Yeah, it's a
see
lot.
whatever.
It's a lot.
It is a lot to digest. I'll say
Oh.
one quick thing is that she's going to join our group. So she said she'll post the links and everything. So if it's okay with Eric, I don't know
absolutely, yeah, absolutely, Tracy. And we will also post all the contact details below the video.
Fabulous.
So yeah, absolutely. We will
I'm looking forward to coming into your community and sharing.
Yeah,
and feel free to ask questions. You know, there is a lot. You know, there is a lot of information that I've shared. You know, so feel free to ask questions. I'm here.
absolutely.
And anybody ever want me to hold space for them to go dive in and see what's going on inside of them, then feel free to reach out and we'll go on a discovery session.
Absolutely. Thank you
Beautiful.
so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's thanks to Alva.
Yeah,
Alva,
thank you,
thank you
Alva.
so much. Okay, guys. So
Thank you,
Beautiful.
everyone. Have a
beautiful
Friday.
day.
Have a wonderful
Bye.
day.
Bye. Bye.